I remember I was telling my daughter this the other day, actually. It was quite funny. One day, this guy come in and he wanted to buy a packet of cigarettes. And I remember it clearly. It was Alpine Lights. And he was 5 cents short. And I said, look, I will spot you the 5 cents, no worries. And he goes, oh, thank you so much. He goes, I'm actually a roadie for the Black Crows. Would you like to go and see their show? And I'm like, yes, I'd like to go and see their show. And he goes, I'll put your name on the door. And I'm like, can it be me and a +1? And he goes, okay, no worries. So, yeah, so my friend and I rocked up at Theberton Theatre, and I said, I've got my name on the door.
Look at the Connect coaching. Unplugged.
Alrighty, welcome everybody to the Unplugged Podcast, episode number 13. This week we have a very, very special guest. Toni Everard is an award-winning NLP master trainer and coach and podcaster who is obsessed with the power of the mind and communication, and also the positive impact it has on business success. She works with entrepreneurs, business owners, coaches, therapists, and practitioners, empowering them to stand out as they go to authority in their field, intrinsically know their worth, and have the confidence to share their unique message with the world. Toni is an internationally certified master trainer of NLP, a trainer of timeline therapy, hypnosis, and NLP coaching. Her level and depth of training, coupled with the years of experience, creates phenomenal client results, for which she has won multiple awards. She has a knack for making learning and growth simple and fun, has helped hundreds of people across the globe, from business owners of 20 million plus brands to solopreneurs and startups, through certification trainings and group and individual coaching programs. When she's not focused on helping people launch their genius zone, you can find her traveling from one beach location to the next with her partner, cracking mum jokes with her adult daughter, and hanging out with the local yoga studio. Welcome, Toni. Toni is not only someone we worked with closely for a very long time, but Toni has become a good friend of both Connors and I, and so the Connect coaching community. Thank you for being here today, Toni.
Thank you. What an amazing introduction that was. And thanks for having me here. It's great to be chatting with you guys on this Friday morning.
Yeah, it's great. We love getting people on our podcast, but we especially love getting people that we have spent a lot of time with over the years. It's like getting the band back together again. And you're someone who it's hard to pin down sometimes. You are literally doing so many things all of the time. And one of the things that like really, really interests me is the way that you give continual support to your community. It's something that Connor and I are very big on. Yes, you teach the certification trainings, but you offer a space for people to continually learn. Often it's like, hey, here's your certificate, see you later. But you've created a really beautiful space at a couple of different levels within your business where you continue that support. Why was that important to you?
Yeah, I'm super passionate about it. I guess there's a couple of reasons, and one is that I remember when I first got into this personal development space, and there certainly wasn't anyone that I was hanging around with at that time that was learning what I was doing or interested in what I was learning about, or really I had a lot of great people around me, but they were like party people, or they were just like, I'm just here doing my job and waiting for the weekend, and just living their average kind of life. And so it was a lonely kind of place to be, like once you come out of the training room and went back to your normal environment, right? And it's hard to continue that growth journey if you don't have an environment that supports it. And so, that's what I really wanted to create for the people that I work with, is that there's that community of people that understand where you're at, what you're about, and who can hold that space for you and see you as having the potential of doing whatever it is that you want to do. And I think that's really a powerful thing to do. And, and I guess the other side of that, a kind of a selfish reason, is that I get to hang out with really cool people that, think like I do as well. So it's a win-win situation.
I love it. Nice.
And a little bit about your journey. Where are you now? You're in, I know where you are. The listeners may not know where you are.
Do you mean like geographically or like?
Yeah. Look, you got to go anywhere, right? Emotionally, spiritually, mentally. What state are you in now?
Yeah, so I'm in Adelaide. I live in Adelaide, South Australia. I've always lived in South Australia, and live in Adelaide, South Australia. I've always lived in South Australia, and in Adelaide, South
Are you
Australia.
right?
Oh, that was my problem.
Are we talking to Tony? That was and
People always say I'm everywhere, but maybe there's more than one of me.
we're in the Matrix. Can you let us know where what sort of kid were you growing up?
Oh, what kind of a kid was I growing up? That's really interesting. I'm the baby of the family, so I'm like the youngest of the youngest of the youngest, I think. And I had a really interesting kind of childhood. I probably was a bit of a tomboy, if anything, because my parents separated when I was quite young, so I was about 2 or 3. And so I grew up with my dad and my brother, and my dad was a panel beater. And so I was always around, cars and motorbikes and fishing and do all those kinds of stuff. I think my dad taught me how to shoot when I was like, 6, something like that. So I was always, I loved an adventure. I still do. We went and lived on the York Peninsula for about 8 years we moved over there when I was about 7. So we were just always outside, just riding bikes, climbing trees, swimming, snorkeling, fishing, doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess I was a bit of a tomboy. I was always a good girl. I was a pretty good girl. I was the golden child, I think, in some aspects in my family. And my cousins and things were older than me, so I did pretty well. But then I guess there was a lot of I guess I don't know what you'd call it. It's not like fully traumatic, but like very unstable kind of situations that I grew up in. Like both my parents been married and remarried like 3 or 4 times each. And so there was always a lot of sort of stuff going on. I started school early because my dad was a single dad at that stage. And, in the 80s, there wasn't as much kind of child support and all that, things going on. So I started school early. As a form of childcare, I guess. And, but, I always did quite well at school. But by the time I got into high school, I wasn't, probably getting along that well with my stepmother at that stage. And so I decided I was going to leave and move back to Adelaide to live with my mum. And at that stage, I was 15 and I just finished year 11. And I moved back to Adelaide, and my mum said, "Well, you're either going to go back to school and get a job."
Year 11.
What was that?
You were 15 and you finished year 11s.
Yes.
You would have been 16. And a lot of the other school leavers would have been around the 18 mark. So you were quite an early bloomer.
Yeah, I was. And so, Mum said, "You're either going to go back to finish school or get a job." So I got a job. So I started working full time when I was 15. Yeah.
What are you doing then? Tell me. I'm intrigued, and I was intrigued to hear that you shot guns when you were young. We can get back to that later. What was it that you were doing when you first left school?
The first job that I got, my mum lived and her husband lived in Brooklyn Park, which was just near the Adelaide airport. And so I got a job in what was, Adelaide used to have a domestic terminal, which was separate from the international terminals. There's a whole new terminal now in, Adelaide airport. But back in those days, this is like 1990, I think. There was a domestic terminal and I worked in a gift shop. So it was a guy who, my boss he was a real entrepreneur he was someone who had a big influence on me, actually. He was a real entrepreneur. Remember, he used to drive this fancy 2-door Mercedes and he had this gift shop and he just sold everything. Like he hired out mobile phones because in those days, people didn't have mobile phones. I feel so old going back in my day. But right, they had these like these bricks that you'd have a little case with the battery and stuff in them.
Yeah.
And like, you know, business people used to fly in from interstate and they would like rent a mobile phone to have with them for the day. This sounds like a ridiculous story, doesn't it? I can't believe I'm like, it's weird, but it's like another lifetime. But yeah, so he hired out mobile phones. He was an agency for like a post office, a credit union. We sold wine and gifts and magazines. It's a news agency. It just kind of did everything. He even used to have like, you know, the brochure stands that you see in like the arrivals and stuff with all the brochures. His part of his business. What was that?
Yeah, with all the different like
touristy things,
wineries and stuff to go to.
Yeah. He used to charge people to stack their brochures in these things. That was part of his business. So he was amazing at just finding all these ways that money could come into him. He was incredible. So that's where I worked for the first couple of years of my working career. It was pretty exciting at the time because you know, superstars come through, and I remember serving like John Stevens and Billy Joel and Jimmy Barnes, and you know, that used to be the highlights of working there. I remember I was telling my daughter this the other day. Actually, it was quite funny. One day, this guy come in and he wanted to buy a packet of cigarettes, and I remember it clearly. It was Alpine Lights, and he was 5 cents short. And I said, "Look, I'll spot you the 5 cents, no worries." And he goes, "Oh, thank you so much." He goes, "I'm actually a roadie for the Black Crows. Would you like to go and see their show?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'd like to go and see their show." And he goes, "I'll put your name on the door." And I'm like, "Can it be me and a +1?" And he goes, "Okay, no worries." So yeah, so my friend and I rocked up at Theberton Theatre, and I said, "I've got my name on the door," and sure enough, we got in and saw the Black Crows.
Of course. Right?
That's impressive.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, I mean, I was flipping burgers at Burger King in Mission Bay in Auckland when I was 15, and here you are renting out mobile phones and going to the Black Crows. Did it help you grow up quickly? Like, you know, did it force you to grow up quickly?
Look,
You feel like it did? I mean,
it's really interesting. Like now, you know, having my own daughter who's just turned 21, like I would have been horrified if she'd left school at 15 and was working full time. But you know, I think for the life that I lived, I just did grow up quite early. You know, I guess in a lot of ways, like I did a lot of childhood things, but I grew up, I had a lot of responsibility, and I grew up really quite young. So I guess, yeah, I mean, in that aspect, I think I built my first house with my partner when I was like 21 or something like that. So I was just in that kind of, yeah, I'm responsible for myself and making my own money and whatever else. Yeah.
do you feel as though that's influenced you to help you create the success that you established for yourself and create for yourself, I guess, in the more recent years?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because, you know, throughout my life, like from starting work at 15, I've done a lot of different kinds of things. And I always felt like, I always remember one of the metaphors that you're famous for, Connor, that always kind of sticks in my mind is the jellyfish metaphor where, like you just go with the flow. I always just would go with the flow, and I just, it took me on a lot of different adventures. And, you know, after working at the airport, I went and worked in a hardware store. And then after that, I ended up working in heavy engineering. Like I was doing admin, but then that turned into me becoming a non-destructive testing technician, where I was like testing metal and welds in like submarines and power stations and oil refineries and stuff like that. And so I guess I just was open for adventure. I guess I was like pretty flexible in my behavior and just seeing what else might happen. But I guess it got to a point where you get to that point, like the jellyfish, where you just kind of rock up one day in middle of Antarctica going, well, this wasn't really where I intended on going. You know, what's this all about? So
Are you Is it okay if we go there? What was that for you? Where was it?
Where was it? Well, it was interesting because, for a long time, I thought that I probably had my life a bit sorted out in one way or another because, when you're little, when people say, what is it you want to do when you grow up? The only thing that I ever remember saying that I wanted to do was I wanted to work in a bank. And I don't know if that's because I wanted to count money. I'm not really sure, but I did end up working in a bank. And I worked in a bank for about 10 years all up. I'd go and then I'd leave and then I'd come back and I'd leave and come back. And eventually the reason that I left the bank was because they had sales targets. So working in a branch, I had sales targets. We had these KPIs of how many referrals we gave for home loans and business insurance, everything else, financial planning. And I hated it. I hated it with a passion. And I used to say to my branch manager, because he'd always be like, Toni, how can we motivate you to get this, to get your KPIs each month? And I'm like, look, I'm not really interested in doing this sales. I said, but the customers love me. Like literally we used to have customers who'd come into the branch and line up to get served by me, right? They'd be like, no, I'm waiting for Toni. I go, that's my role here is that people like me, right? And that's what happens. I didn't quite get the connection there. That's not what, made a successful business, just having people like you. And so I got a bit jack of all the pressure for doing these sales. And I said, all I want is a job where I've got a computer and a desk and a phone and a window, and then I can just sit and do my job and go home and that's it. And so I started studying accounting and was doing a diploma of accounting. And sure enough, I manifested myself a job where I had a desk and a computer and a phone and a window that looked out onto an intersection in Adelaide, which was interesting. And that was at a function centre and I was doing accounts there. And I thought I had it made because it was actually the National Wine Centre of Australia. So we used to get lots of wine for free and, get long lunches and different things. And I just sit there and banged away at my computer and drank wine, not usually at my desk, but, it seemed like a pretty sweet deal, right? Like I created this, what I thought that I wanted. But after about 6 years of being there, well, probably after about 5 years of being there, I started feeling like, you know what, this isn't actually everything. Like my life isn't my dream life. And at that point in time, I was a single mom with like a preteen daughter. I had a mortgage. I had this part-time accounts role. I was just living literally for the weekends, and I had a lot of party friends who were all people that had good jobs and doing reasonably well in life and all that kind of stuff. But I just got to that point where I think it was after a pretty heavy festive season. After, through Christmas, and there was always a lot of events that I went to, and a really good friend of mine at that time was a beer rep. So like I went to a lot of stuff. There was a lot of parties and events and clubs and all kinds of stuff. And I think it was after a pretty heavy festive season that I kind of woke up at the start of around 2015 and thought, this isn't what I wanted to be as a grown up. Like I'm not happy. Like I'm not enjoying life. And
Yeah.
I was butting heads with my daughter and I was sick of feeling shit and, recovering from the weekend and all that kind of stuff. And at that time, I was getting some awareness, but like at that time, I thought it was my job. That was probably the problem. And if I changed my job or my career, well, that would solve all of my problems. And so what happened then was I noticed I was kind of looking what else I could study, and I couldn't really sort of settle on anything. But one of my friends started this little business where she'd set up this website and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, well, this seems really interesting. And so before I knew it, I was in this funnel watching all these videos, at early hours in the morning from these guys from the US and the UK. And they were teaching this thing called affiliate marketing, right? Where you could get on your laptop and bang up a website and pump out ads and you make all this money. And I thought that sounds amazing. I would really like to do that. And then you can travel the world and, live this amazing life and just
the laptop lifestyle. Is that what they?
Laptop lifestyle, yeah,
that-
4-hour work week.
Yeah.
That's the one. And so I got into that, and I spent like thousands of dollars that I really didn't have. I was borrowing money to get, on my mortgage and all that kind of stuff, and getting right into this, setting up my own websites and everything. And I didn't get any results. I made like $0. I had no return on this investment, and not financially anyway. And that's when it really started to hit me. I thought, oh my God, it like doesn't matter what I do, nothing's changing. Like I'm not getting ahead. And but the two most important things that happened at that time was that one was that these guys knew that the people who got results did the work on themselves. So there was a lot of personal development. So that's when I started listening to podcasts and reading books. And, I went to like landmark forums, and I went to Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, and did all those kinds of things. But then I met my first coach, and that's when things really started to change. And she wasn't essentially NLP trained, but she knew a lot about NLP. And I realized that when I'd been to the Tony Robbins stuff, that was all NLP. And I thought, you know what, I really want to be able to learn more about this stuff, because things had really started to change. I understood how to focus on what it is that I wanted and change how I felt and thought and make those changes. But I didn't feel like I had full control over that. So I went along and sought out an NLP training. And I guess, that wasn't long after that where I met you guys.
Yeah. And gosh, it was about what, 2016? It was
2016. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And that stint you did with the network marketing company, creating your own website. It's funny. You said I didn't get any financial return on investment. Gosh, imagine like learning how to do a website is like one of those skills that, if you're going to be an entrepreneur nowadays, should be pretty high on the list.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. One of the things that really was probably I got the biggest benefit out of was that they did this thing called a 90-day video challenge. And in those days, 2015, people weren't doing live video, but we're recording video and then uploading it into this Facebook group. And so I did 90 days, like consecutive days of recording a video of some kind of a content and posting it into this group. And that's how I got to know some really incredible people from around the world, because there was people around the world that were in this group. That's where I met my first coach. But it also got me to be comfortable on camera. And I think that is one of the most valuable things. And being like a coach or, having your own business. And it's just become more and more so, relevant as time's gone on with social media. But I mean, I remember recording my first video, and I remember it really distinctly. I thought I would go somewhere, it's going to have this amazing kind of, scene and everything. So I was down at the beach. I'm going to record this video at the beach. And I was so petrified of recording this video. And I was like, I had to make sure that no one was like near me on the beach and that they couldn't see, that they weren't going to see me recording myself.
Even though thousands will very shortly.
And then I finally recorded this video, and I think it's probably still on my YouTube channel. I might have unlisted it, but and I looked like a deer in the headlights. So I was just petrified, just recording. Like, it wasn't live or anything, it was just to the camera. But I just did it, and I just kept doing it every day for 90 days. And I think since then I've done like another 90-day video challenge. I've done a few 30-day ones, but now it's just like, I can just jump on video and
that would be great nostalgia and a bit of a before and after. With yourself, actually, Toni, for your students and your community members.
Yeah.
So, it's always nice to see where someone, and that's what I and Cal and I try to help paint the picture of where someone came from, and with resilience and persistence. Resilience and persistence, the word I was trying to put together. So resilience and persistence and focus and all those other nice adjectives get you where you are today. And I think a lot of people look up. I like saying it's easier to look down from the top of a mountain than it is to look up. And what was that quote I shared with our team yesterday or the other day? It's that people think that the being on the top of the mountain, people think most joy comes from being on the top of the mountain, but it actually comes from the climb up once you're on your way up. And I'd love to see that, Tony. We should put him in, drop him in the link.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd be happy to. There's all kinds of. There's another video I share. I used to have this alter ego called DJ For Real, and I used to pretend I was a DJ, and I'd get people to take photos and stuff with me, and it got to a point where people started messaging me and asking me if I could DJ. So
I've seen some of those photos, and I thought you did DJ back in the day. I was part of the
DJ
No.
So Real, PHO or FO?
FAUX.
It's interesting, Tony, because I feel like along that journey, you changed roles and you did very different things, but they all leave little breadcrumbs of little hints of where you should take your life and what you should be doing. And, you talked about speaking in front of the camera and getting used to that over, a 90-day period, and having done that several more times now. And you're actually a host of your own podcast now. And, you get some fantastic guests in there. You have some great conversations. I know it's a bit of a sidetrack from what you do now, but it does complement it. So how did you get into podcasting, and what is the theme behind it? And what is your motivation for doing those things?
Yeah, so I, like you guys mentioned at the start that, I'm big on having community and supporting people ongoing. And, I think one of the things that when you get into this space, and especially with doing things like NLP, and you get this kind of sense of like, oh my God, like if everybody knew this stuff, like I can just help anybody, I can help everybody. And as time goes on, you realize that even though you can help everyone, not everyone wants to be helped, and it's not your job to help everyone. And sometimes people just aren't in that space to get the kind of help that you're offering just yet, right? So I always wanted to be able to have something that I offered that helped people no matter where they are on their journey. And that I guess that people could get a real idea about what I was about, like what, I wanted to bring to the world, what I believed was available for everyone, right? That like my view of you can change your life, you can have, a different outcome, you can have different reality than what you have now. And so there's always been ways that I've done that. And I love connecting with people and sharing information. And I think because, I know that the people who've shared information with me have made such a positive impact on my life as well. And one of the things that I know I love to do is I love talking, and I love talking and sharing ideas. And I love nothing more than having a conversation with someone else who's like really quick-witted, right? Like, you get in those conversations and like ideas just jump back and forth, and it's funny and it's fun. And like it's just uplifting and people learn something and get a different perspective. And I really enjoy doing that. And I feel like, the thing with a lot of social media these days, and I was just talking about this in the group that I run on Friday mornings, is that a lot of social media these days is all about like really short, like people's attention span is really short. It's like do a 90-second reel, do like a, maximum 3-minute kind of snippet of information, all this kind of stuff, which is great. And I think it takes real skill to be able to deliver information well in that space. But the thing with podcasting is that people come to that platform expecting to listen to you for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and you can explain so much more. You can give much greater insights into your ideas and your thoughts. You can get more information out of other people. You can, people get the ability to see how you interact with others. And I think it's just a really great rapport building exercise, but also really great for sharing ideas and just bringing some, I guess, lightness to people's days. And, it's incredible because like I get so much out of doing the podcast. Like I really love doing it. And like so often I rock up at an event, like a networking event or a training or something, and people go, I was just listening to your podcast this morning. And, or they go, I was about to do this and I could hear you in the back of my head saying such and such. And like to know that I have a positive impact on people just by, recording something for like half an hour a week and putting it out there.
Hey guys, Callum and Connor here from Connect Coaching. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Unplugged Podcast. We're jumping in to let you know about something really exciting, the Forever Client Matrix.
Absolutely. What we love doing is lighting people up and helping them realize that their future is bright and, most importantly, making a difference in this world. So we are very excited to be able to share this with you.
If you want to turn every prospect into a Forever Client, then please click on the link below in the description and get instant access now to your preview of the Forever Client Matrix.
Enjoy.
There, and that has a positive impact on people. I feel like, how could I not do that? Right? Like it's just, I feel like it's like, if you can help people, then do it. And if it doesn't take that much effort, then absolutely do it more. Yeah. So that's why I love podcasting. Was that the question?
Well, that was the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was looking for. And I find that totally relate to your story at the beginning when you said, when you started your NLP journey and you became a coach, and even when you became a trainer, you went back after the trainings to your community and you felt like you were just there by yourself with, no one really that thought the same way or saw things the same way, or even had some of the same language to be able to explain the concepts and ideas that you were thinking about. And I definitely experienced that, I tried for a very long time to get people to, buy into it with me in terms of, starting those conversations. And, sometimes I was laughed at by some of my good mates because they just did not get it and totally weren't open to it at all. So
yeah, I remember one of my really good friends, sorry, Kat, I'm just on that. One of my really good friends, when I did my first training, said to me, so like, are you going to be a life coach or something? Like it was a joke, right?
Yeah.
Because look at how my life had been up until that point. Yeah.
Yeah. People used to call me, wannabe Tony Robbins and all that sort of stuff. It was,
I've been called Adelaide's Tony Robbins before.
Adelaide's Toni Everard.
The coolest thing about it now, especially with the, advances in technology and what we can do through communication over the internet is create our own communities and build, it doesn't need to be huge. You can build a community small at first, it grows organically, and you start to find people that are very much aligned with the way that you think and the values that you have, the beliefs that you have, and are all committed to growth and expansion of their understanding of who they are and how they fit into the, greater, idea of what it means to be a human on this planet. And, I think that for me is exciting because, we came from this model of, getting people in the training room, having them have a great time. But, there came a point where there wasn't really anywhere for those people to go anymore with us. Obviously they came back and assisted, but I think what's great about the community model, especially in business, is that you can create that forever client relationship with someone over a long term, past the training, past, the time in which it takes to attend them and get the certification. And, that's, you create that forever friendship with that person as well. And that network I think the power of that network is exponential when everybody puts their minds together and has their different ways of doing things and ideas and learning different things and contributing to the community. I'm really big on it. And what I wanted to ask is just to expand a little bit more on our conversation at the start of the podcast. Am I right in thinking that beyond your podcast and beyond your training, beyond your coaching, you actually have two communities that you run? There's the one for your graduates, but there's also one for people who are maybe just starting out. Is that right?
Yeah. So I've probably got a few communities in one form or another. So within my business, so when I created the Coaching Circle podcast, and I really love that as a way that I could help people. And then, I really thought I've often thought about having like a Facebook group, but with everything that I do, I really just didn't feel like I had the energy for running just like a free Facebook group and trying to drive engagement and all that kind of stuff. It just didn't, I never really got into that. And so, but I really wanted to have a space where people who, wanted that kind of connection and community and positive space. And I've always done this in one way or another. Like back in 2016, I used to lead this like weekly walk where like once a week, it was called the Happiness Hunters. There was a lady called Fiona Redding. Well, she still is called Fiona Redding in Melbourne. And had this concept and I took it on and I used to walk people around this lake for, an hour every Wednesday, and it was a positive space and we'd all, talk positive stuff, right? So I've always loved doing that. But, I created the podcast and, people are loving it. And I thought I really want to create a space where I can, I give more and connect people that maybe aren't ready to be in a training room or, they're not ready to commit or not able to commit or whatever to, the higher sort of and things that I do. And so I created the Coaching Circle Insiders, which is like a subscription group off the back of the podcast. So that's really easy access for people. There's no sort of lock-in contracts, but mind you, people get in there, they don't want to leave because it's great value. And every Friday morning I do like some kind of training on sort of coaching, mindset, business for coaches, practitioners and therapists. And I absolutely love it. They get on and, engage with me and that kind of stuff. So there's that community. And then, so people who train with me, there's like a graduates group and where they can continue asking me questions about their NLP training and that kind of stuff. And then I've got a private coaching group for people who have been really serious about coaching and they've gone through to become an NLP master practitioner or a trainer and they want that ongoing mentoring and support in their business. And so the reason that I created that group was that I found that after I did my training is that, yes, I've got this NLP training and now I need to create a business, right? And build the business. And there were plenty of people who would like help with the business and give you all these kind of marketing and, business techniques. But it always for me was lacking. There was no one there that could give me the one-on-one kind of like mindset or mentoring support that I really needed. And so that's what I wanted to create for other people because, even when I run trainings, I always say to people like, for me, the reason why I teach NLP and, timeline therapy and hypnosis and things like that is it's not just because it's a great thing to sell. It's like I literally want more people to have these skills and to go out and help more people. And I know that some people will come into a training and they'll pick that up and they'll just run with it. But other people need more help to really make that happen. And, the last thing I want is for people to go and do an NLP training and then come out of it and go, well, that was nice, put the manual on the shelf and then never do anything with it. Right, because I think I'm really passionate about it, that so much of our world would be a different place if people, I believe in the transform the planet, right? Like we'll be a different place if people were equipped with these skills, but not just given them, but then sort of supported and mentored in how to keep applying them and applying them to themselves and how to apply them with others in an ongoing kind of way while they really, embed that for themselves. And again, for that space, it's a really great community. There's like-minded people in there that they all support each other, which is great. And I just love so much hearing about, when they tell me, who else they've helped, right? And the results that they've helped. And thinking like me going from being, 15-year-old me working at the domestic terminal of the Adelaide Airport to now being someone that literally has this ripple effect of making change across the world is just, it's mind blowing, right? And again, it always comes back to that, like, how could I not do it? How could I not do it? If I can do that, how could I not? So I just really love supporting people and just seeing that just keeps growing. And yeah.
Well done. It reminds me of a metaphor that I often would say to people, and they like doing an NLP course, they think they're done, if you know what I mean. It's rather like going to the gym. You could go to the gym and you leave with a perfect body, but if you go back to the old behaviors, sitting on the couch eating potato chips all day, you're going to get the same results. So the communities that you've created, it actually helps people with their accountability in maintaining that new life. I don't know if that's the right words, but that new level of standard that they have in their life now, whether they're clear with their boundaries, whether they have the ability to communicate more effectively or have those difficult conversations with people, that bosses, their partners, their colleague, their children, having that sort of certainty within themselves in order to do the things that they wouldn't normally do because of fear, doubts, previous failures. So having that community to help you maintain your accountability is paramount and highly, highly valuable. So I really, really feel that. And when you are plugged into, transform the planet, Tad, his mission was to transform the planet. Cows is to let people know that the future is absolutely bright. There's so much doom and gloom around the world. The headlines that get the most clicks are the ones that have the most fear driven into them. We have the unfortunate incident in Sydney during the week, but the headlines were like every single one of them was, you can, if you know language, they're designed to get you to click on them. They're not designed for any other reason other than how can I get the most eyes onto this piece of journalism, and therefore I can justify the advertising costs to the people who are sponsoring it, and that's what it does. So when you have the ability to, I guess, see through that, and you have that community there to support you in your new life decisions, it goes a long way. And coming back to Callum, the future is bright. There's so much doom and gloom around. It is. The future is absolutely bright. Depending on what sort of lens you have on as a human being, to me, it's making a difference. To me, it lights me up to make a difference in someone's life. It always has. I was always that person who people would confide in. And I wasn't. I mean, I'm talking like a teenager, and in my early 20s when I went through uni, people would always just tell me their problems because they felt comfortable enough in order to share that with me. And I always wanted to make a difference. I always wanted to, whether it's cracking a joke or getting them to see positively, whatever it was, I always, we know it as a reframe and shifting focus, but I just wanted people to feel better when they were feeling down. And I'd always stand up for the person who's getting picked on at school. So for me, it's about making a difference. With yourself, Toni, do you have a why, big why you do what you do? It could be mission, could be vision, but what's your, why? Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you 3 different communities that you're juggling, and why do you push yourself sometimes outside of your comfort zone in order to grow? Why do you do that?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's kind of changed over time. Like I know when my first big why was definitely I wanted to be a really good role model for my daughter. And I wanted her to be able to see that you could change your life, right? That you could create whatever kind of life that you wanted to have. So, that was a big drive for me at the start. And then I think beyond that, it was, I really wanted to empower other women, and especially women that are sort of 40 plus, right? Because I think, a lot happens for women, and no doubt men as well, but, women, especially where I work with in that kind of 40 to 50 plus kind of age group where, perhaps the kids have become older or, they've grown up, or there might have been some kind of change in their life. There might have been separations, or they might have had burnout in their work through, they've kind of risen up through the ranks and then ended up burnt out trying to do everything for everyone or whatever. And they start looking for, what is this? What's more for me? And, and I think in some ways I feel like I've got a really interesting kind of perspective myself on women and what life is like for women. And I guess I've never been one who felt like I couldn't do something because I was a woman. I was raised obviously by my dad, and I did a lot of things in male dominated industries, and I never felt like there was any kind of restrictions in that for me. But I think more so what I've seen and my experience has been the as a woman feeling like you've got to do everything for everyone else and fix everything for everyone else and, put everyone else's needs first and, like hold everything together and do all that kind of stuff. And I think that's where I see like a lot of women, in that space. But the other side of it, I think, is that shifting women's perspective of that when you get to a certain age, that you're more valuable, not less valuable, right? And I think there is so much like wisdom and resources in women who are in their 40s and 50s. They've got so much experience, patience, wisdom, all those kinds of things. And there's so much that they have to offer. And I'm really passionate about helping women see that and to step into that and to continue making a difference in the world that is bigger than having to look after the other people around them who are often adults, right? So they've got adult children or they've got adult siblings or adult parents, but they still feel like they have to look after them. And it's like, they're adults. You can let them be and do what is good for you and what you're driven to do, which could be a much bigger picture. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with looking after families. For some people, that's their whole thing. But knowing that you can step into what it is that you feel like you're drawn to do, right? Like from all the experience that you've had, what is it you now feel like you want to do on a bigger scale and make a bigger impact? And, I think I was lucky that my grandmother was a really positive influence on me. She lived to be 93 and she lived through, world wars and all kinds of things. She passed away, I think, probably close to 20 years ago now. She was born in 1913. But she was always, she was always very well dressed. She was always very well read. She always, led a lot of things in the family. And she always inspired me to, I guess, to be more and to, put things right where I felt like that they should be put right. Now I love working in that space, right? I just think that there's such a great resource and that women and mothers, really make a big influence, have a big influence on the world and it could be much greater. And so I love helping people in that space. And, I think the other thing in this, and I guess this ties into why I love creating community and that sort of mentoring space is because, we've often got like this lifetime of stuff, right? That we've brought along with us and, we come to a training or whatever and a coach and we start shifting some of that stuff. But I mean, I remember, crying to my coach early on going, oh my God, will I ever get rid of all my stuff? Right? The answer is no, you don't ever get rid of all your stuff. But it's knowing that, and I explain this to some people, right, as well, that if you could really ever, if it's like the first training or the first coaching you ever had, you went to, that they were able to just to go in and get the root of every single limiting thing that's going on with you and pull it out, you would not be able to exist in the world, right? You just wouldn't know how to relate to your whole life. It would just be way too sort of confronting. So there's layers of stuff that people, need to work through. It's like you got to change as much as your nervous system is open and willing to change to and what you can adapt to and, develop that neurology and grow as you go. So I think that's what I'm really passionate about is helping people understand that it's an ongoing journey and that there's ongoing support for them. And I think especially in the coaching space, because a lot of people go, oh, well, I'm a coach now. I should have it all together. And it's like, that's not how it works, right? Like you've got the skills, but that growth journey is ongoing. And so, I love helping people who help people. That's really what it comes down to.
Continual improvement is important. Even the NBA players practice every week.
Yeah.
How they maintain it once they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So that's I guess and if I think about like my mission or vision, I've always said I would love to see these sort of coaching and communication skills in every business and in every family, because it does make such a positive difference, and there doesn't have to be so much suffering and drama and trauma and toxic stuff that happens in the world. And if people were skilled and were given the ability and the tools and the resources to live as the truth of who they are, it would just be such a better place for everyone.
Yeah, here. I agree. And I think that, in terms of a great role model, not only to your daughter, but also to your network, your community, you definitely embody um, that that leadership role now. And I've seen you step into that over the last 6 or 7 years, and it's been really, really amazing to watch. I can't pinpoint the exact time. There was a moment about 3 or 4 years ago where I feel like it just clicked for you, and um, you kind of were before that you were kind of hanging back a little bit. I felt in terms of like being fully engaged and fully stepping into your power and fully stepping into that leadership role, but somewhere along that line, I saw a change happen behind your eyes, and you were just all in, and you were just asking so many more questions, and you were just you were you're a woman on a mission, and it was so fantastic to see. And it is great to have somebody who is on the other side of all that be able to help women to start to invest back in themselves, because I see it too all the time, with my mum, with my sister, with Nikki. They spend so much time giving to everybody else that over a period of time, that just becomes the habit, and their sort of wants and needs and goals and dreams kind of fall to the wayside. So it's fantastic that there's somebody up the top of the mountain going the way for those guys to see that there can be a different way of doing things. And often what happens is, as that person steps into that, refocusing their energy back to themselves, the other people around them are able to grow more because of it. You said a really key thing. You said they're adults now; they can look after themselves. And for me, growing up, I didn't, I left home early, but not as early as you. But I was 19. But I remember that experience. Like, I would never have grown up had I not have moved away from that home base. Had I not have stepped out and had to really look after myself, and if I wasn't on my own. So I think it gives everybody in that complex relationship matrix a chance to actually reach their potential as well. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it than just, the women and the mums and stuff refocusing their energy back on their goals. It also helps everybody around them also.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's spot on, Callum. And I know, like, my daughter, she turned 21 a couple of months ago, but end of last year, she decided to move to Hamilton Island. And she's working in, hospitality or tourism, travel and tourism. And I fully encouraged her. I thought it was the best thing ever for her to go and, live somewhere else and be in a different environment and doing all those things. And I knew it would be like tough. I knew it would be tough, but it was something that she couldn't get that kind of learning by staying at home. And people would often say to me, and especially like other women, and some men, they'd be like, how do you feel about, your daughter moving away? And I'm like, I'm really excited for her, right? I'm really excited for her. I know it's not, I don't need her to be with me. I want to have a relationship with her, but I don't need her to be with me. Like, I feel like that's selfish, right? I think, we have to be able to willing to put our kids out into the world and put their needs first in that aspect, rather than trying to keep them home and keep them safe and keep them, in this little sphere. And look, and it was really challenging for her. And I'm one of the reasons that I'm so grateful that I have coaching and communication skills is for how I can support my daughter. And doing it with awareness. Like, I have a bit of a thing that I always say, if she's, telling me something, I'm like, am I just listening, or are you after some feedback here? Because kids don't like unsolicited coaching. But she's now at a stage where she's much more open to getting that kind of support. And so I was able to support her through that in a really empowering way. And she stayed there for about 5 months. But in that time, the level of growth and maturity that she's gained from that experience, and it's led her on to now, she's not got another great job back in Adelaide and moving along in her career. It's so, it's so valuable. And, but it's being okay in yourself. And I think that's one of the things. It's people sometimes, project their own needs onto other people, in the guise of like, well, I just want to help or I just want to be supportive. But often it's more about they're worried about being alone or they're worried about not being needed and that kind of stuff. So, so it's the layers of these stuff, and you don't realize that that's part of your life until you're faced with that situation. And I think, that's the other reason why it's so important to have this ongoing kind of coaching and mentorship and support, because life continues to happen. You keep getting confronted with situations that you haven't had before and don't necessarily have the skills to deal with. And, you need the tools and support to work through.
And speaking of tools and support, where can people find you in order to take advantage of your vast knowledge and experience, insights and community?
You can find, it's pretty easy to find me. I'm, my personal brand, my website is all Toni Everard. So ToniEverard.com, Toni Everard Coaching. There's not too many Toni Everards, luckily. So yeah, if you Google my name, you will find me quite easily on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all those kinds of things.
And even
and what services, so if someone, just to give them a bit of a context, so maybe a bit of an angle or what they can focus on when they land on one of your sites?
Yeah, so look, my main focus is I work with coaches, practitioners and therapists in a way that I train, mentor and coach them. So, best way for people to get a bit of an idea of who I am and what I'm about and how I help people is checking out the podcast. So the Coaching Circle podcast, there's some great content there. On my website or any of my pages, people can book in to have a 30-minute call with me and, see where they're at. Or, go to my website, have a look there. If you're looking for NLP trainings, of course, I run NLP practitioners, master practitioners, hypnosis, all those trainings.
Cool.
If someone who's an experienced coach and practitioner and they're needing some support to get to that next level, they can reach out and have a chat to me as well.
Nice one. And so with your community, with one of them, you catch up every Friday morning. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Coaching Circle Insiders is a Friday morning Facebook group. So it's a group that's all run in Facebook. There is a membership portal as well. And there's a whole library of training. So all the trainings that I teach in there, it's anything from podcasting to mindset to communication skills, everything in between. This morning it was an Ask Me Anything call, which is interesting. I always love those sessions. And so you can find links to that in my all my bios have got links where you can find all my offerings and things like that to get all the details.
Nice one. Well, Toni, Callum and I always speak very highly of you. We've known you for coming up to 8-9 years now. And what Callum said about you really stepping into your purpose. It was like a switch did go off. Around the six. Well, it was noticeable anyway from our side, and we spoke about it, and it was things like your presence. You knew you were in the room, which is so empowering and good to see. And now you do this and help others achieve the same, which is incredible. And why we do what we do in the world. So just a massive thank you for coming on today. Love having this conversation. And as you know, we're always here to support for questions and the likes. And I look forward to cheering you on from your sidelines.
Thank you. And, both of you, Connor and Callum, have been a big part of my journey over the last probably 8 years. And you've always been a great support and always great value. And I always remember one of the things, I think it was Callum, you said this about, you were talking about, when you call people, that you've got this projection that they're going to see your name and be really glad to answer the phone. And I always see that if I see, Connor or Callum, pop up on my phone, I'm like, definitely I've got to talk to these guys. So, really, you great value, really appreciate it. And watch out, you think I've, stepped up in the last few years. There is more to come, my friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, much more.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here, buddy. It's great spending time with you. And thank you, everybody, for following along and watching. This is the Unplugged Podcast, and thanks for tuning in.
Okay. See you soon.
Hey guys, Callum and Connor here from Connect Coaching. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Unplugged Podcast. We're jumping in to let you know about something really exciting. If you are a practitioner, a coach, or a trainer in the alternative therapy modality space, the Forever Client Matrix is something that we've modeled in the last 30 combined years, both Connor and my experience. And we've turned it into a 2-day intensive, and we want to give you a preview of that Forever Client Matrix.
Absolutely.
We want to make the bar for them to enter into that program very, very low and have them get incredible results.
I've sold about $40 million worth, and together we've sold about $100 million worth with our teams.
That's right. We believe that trust and reliability is the currency of the future. So if you want to turn every transaction into a transformational experience, if you want to turn every prospect into a forever client, then please click on the link below in the description and get instant access now to your preview of the Forever Client Matrix.
Enjoy.